to color the Lotus petals, I'm going to use 3 colors: magenta, canary yellow, you can use a daffodil yellow or any bright yellow, and this is a lime green. I'm going to start with the magenta, and I'm using a flat brush. I find that the flat brushes give a more accurate coloring when I brush them on. I'm going to put some petal dust onto my brush. I'm going to dab it onto the paper towel just to unload a bit of the excess. And I'm going to start at the edge of the petal where I want the most intense color to go. So the most intense color I want to be here at the very tip and along the edges. So here at the tip and along the edges, brushing from the outside in towards the center. Then I'm going to blend this color by brushing in towards the base of the petal. What I like to do for petal blossoms especially is try to follow the veining. Since the veining of this particular petal is fairly straight, I'm going to keep the brush strokes fairly straight as opposed to curved. I'm adding quite a bit of color here. Remember, I started with a sort of lightish pink for the petal blossoms, and add that in. But as you can see, the most intense part is here at the tip. And I want to remember to do the back of the blossom as well, and I'll do the same thing. Start at the edge there, brushing in to intensify the color, and then blending inward. I'm covering most of the petal with my brush, but it's not all uniformly colored. And the reason for this is I want to sort of take into account shading of sunlight, as though the sunlight were hitting onto this flower. So it's not uniformly covered. There's little lighter areas and of course this darker area at the edge. And this is a sort of a luminous petal dust, a luster dust, and you'll see that it's going to have a little bit of a shine to it. So I'm going to take this at the base of the petal. And I'm going to brush it up towards the center, the most intense part being here at the base. I'm using a more pointed brush for this because I want to spot on the color as opposed to spreading it all around. So I really want to just get that color right there in the center there. Now for the green, I'm going to use a more bushy flat brush to get the green on. This won't be as spot on or as accurate with the color. It'll give more of a overall color. Put a little on there, and I'm going to put a little bit on the paper toweling here. And I'm going to start about the middle of the brush here and just give it a little bit of a sweep down. Just a little bit of a sweep down. And then flipping over, I'm just going to brush the base here to add in the color. If you brush too much green up in there, what can happen is you can get more of a muddy color. It'll look sort of brownish looking. It'll get a muddyish color to it. So just a little hit of color just to intensify it there. Once my petal is brushed with color, then I'm going to try to get rid of a bit of the excess color that's on there, because this is a dust, so it will fall off onto your cake if it's left in this stage. So then this way you can get a more accurate look at how well you did cover it. So I've got a little squirt bottle here, empty squirt bottle, and so all it's going to squirt now is air. So you can see when I squirt it, it does brush some of the excess color off here, and that way I can see how well I've covered it. It looks pretty good. I don't feel like I need to go back and get any more color in there, but if I did feel that way, then this would be a good time to go back and re-establish some of the color on there. So that's my petal done. I would paint all my petals this way. So to add the petals, I'm going to take a dusted petal here, and when I bend, I'm going to bend the petal back. I never want to hold it here at the tip of the petal because it's very fragile there and it'll probably snap. But down here at the base of the petal where the wire is inserted, it's much more sturdy. So I'm going to take it and I'm just going to bend it back just a little bit like that. So I'm going to do that to 4 of them. Now the beauty of having all of these blossoms, these petals to choose from, is that you can sort of pick and choose which ones you want to put where and when. So I'm going to choose these. Yeah. And I'm going to nestle them right up against the side of the base. And remember, this is on an 18 gauge wire, so it's in good shape. So for this first one, I want to get it stuck together, and I'm going to use my full width floral tape for this. I'm using full width as opposed to half width because I want this bulkiness. Lotus stems are quite thick, so I want all the bulkiness I can get. So I'm going to stretch it a little bit because floral tape is just glue on each side of the paper. I'm going to take it, fold it over. 1, 2, it's 2 o'clock here. So to fold it over, and then I'm going to take my tape and fold it over again just to lock it in place. Now if you are nervous about attaching petals, I would do each one on its own, fold it over, and attach the next one. If you've taped things before and you're feeling a little bit confident about it, then you might be more inclined to add 2 petals at once, perhaps even for all 4. So I'm going to add 4 for my initial attachment. And I'm going to tape it over, stretching it slightly, and one more time, just to make sure. Now you'll notice I'm not real worried about their placement as yet because they're going to move all around as I attach all of these petals. So from here I'm going to go in between and attach around the edges. So I'll get some more. I'm going to go in between here, attach it, and again it's quite close. So again you can wrap around each individual one as you want to. As I get further along in the petals, I do tend to add them either 2 at a time or singly, just because it kind of gives me an idea. You know, I can stop and take a look and see where perhaps I want to tape that next one. It may not always be clear. It's looking nice, isn't it? Let's see, I think I need one right in here, don't you think? Let me get this one. I think he'll look good there. And around. And around. How about right in there? And I have 2 more, so I'm going to take a peek, see where I want those to go. I think I want this one here. Yep. And then I'll take this one right in here. And give that a wrap around. You can see how as I'm wrapping, I'm really avoiding the petals so that I don't knock my hand against them and break them. But if you break them, just pull it off. Hopefully you've made tons of them so that you'll have plenty. So now I have all my petals attached. I have quite a thick stem going here, which is nice. And what I'm going to do is stretch out my tape, stretch out a good length of the tape, angle it downward, and I'm going to tape downward. Now I'm taping not too great an angle. It's not a huge angle here because I want to build up the bulk on here, so it's just a little bit of an angle so that I go over and over the tape a little bit, overlapping the tape a little bit so that I get that bulk going there. And I'm going to tape down all the wires of the petals so that none of them are poking out. Those can hurt if they poke you in the hand. So all the way down here, like this. Is that looking pretty? Now for this flower, it looks really nice if you bend some of the petals down. It's a nice tight flower when it's young, but as it matures, it opens up quite a bit. So you can have it open quite a bit at the top. See how we just see that nice center? And then along the edges, it'll open up a bit. And we can get a look at that nice yellowish shading, the green there in deep inside of it, and it takes on a really nice color. Here I'm going to go underneath here, and right here at the stem, I'm going to take my green brush and I'm going to brush a little bit of this lime green along the floral tape and then blend it into the bottom of the blossom to make it cohesive looking. There's no calyx for this, so this is just our way of transitioning between the stem and the flower. And I'm going to take my leaf over here that's also on an 18 gauge wire, set it upside this, take a piece of floral tape, and I've got an additional 2 18 gauge wires. These are actually one wire that I cut in half, and I'm going to add this onto the stem here. Add this right here at the base of the stem here. Not so much for strength, because this 18 gauge wire has a lot of strength to it, but more for a little wire bulking. I'm going to take my floral tape, stretch it to release the glue, and then, hoping you can see this, I'm going to wrap the wire, the floral tape around the wire, and I'm going to overlap, let me do that again. I'm going to overlap the wire, and I'm also going to overlap the little base that I made up here. So I'm going to kind of overlap that to tie that into the stem. And then I'm going to angle it down and tape all the way down the stem. Now this too, I'm not angling too deeply. Not angling it too deeply. I'm keeping it more of a softer angle rather than a deeper angle, because I want the tape to overlap quite a bit and make it even bulkier. And I'm going to tape down the length of the additional 2 wires that I attached. So you can see it's attached there. And then, because I want to add even more bulk, let me pop that. He's best stored this way. I'm going to get another length of tape. Release the glue again. I'm just going to go back over it one more time. Angling it just a little bit, and this will create even more bulk. There is plastic tubing that you can buy that will create a bulkiness, but I find that really artificial looking. Even more artificial looking than floral tape. At least with the floral tape, you're able to blend the color using petal dust, because the glue from the floral tape tends to pick up the petal dust nicely. It's just, let me see if I can get this a little bit closer. There. Can see where it's blended in quite nicely now. And while I've got you up close, let me get some green and just blend that in. So now it really does look quite like it's a part of the whole leaf. okay. Coming back out now. Oh. There we go. So there we have it. So hopefully you can see the steam coming out. The steam is quite intense coming out here. So I'm going to take advantage of that and steam my flower. I don't want to get too close because it's hot, but I want to get it fairly close so that it steams it. What steaming does is it slightly melts your gum paste. And then when the gum paste dries again, the dusting color has blended into it, setting the color. It also gives your flowers a nice little sheen to them as opposed to a matte color, and it gives them a little bit more vibrancy, a little bit more realism. So you want to get all around it, but not so much that you melt it. So I think I'm just about there now. Yeah. Then I'll set this in a styrofoam to dry. I'll do the same thing with my leaf. Now leaves are a thing where you can set the color by steaming them, and then if you wanted to add an additional sheen to it, you would use something called confectioner's glaze that you would brush on it. It's an edible lacquer that gives it a real sheen to it, but I don't think I need it for this particular leaf. I think it'll detract from the flower, and I really want the flower to shine out. So you can see how it set the color, really made the shading pretty. And now I'm done. So to make my arrangement, I've put some foam inside of a glass container here. I like the heavier containers because gum paste flowers can tend to be a bit top heavy, and then you have them tip over. So I look for a real bulky container here, and I've put some dry forest foam in here meant to be used with silk flowers. You could use regular styrofoam if you liked. The wet foam I think I would avoid. The dry foam I think is a better use for it. Then I've got some rocks here, little accent stone that I got at my local craft store that I'm just going to pile on top here, just to kind of cover up this top area, give it a little bit of a decorative look. The first thing that I want to attach is my leaf, because that's going to sit lowest in the arrangement, and I want it to sit quite low down, and so I think I'm going to take off about this much of the stem, and I'm going to mark that with my thumb just so I'll know where to hit. Now because this is quite thick wires, you want to really give it a good snapping and try not to get too close to the gum paste lest you break it. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a carving all the way around here. Woo! And snap that off. And then I'm going to put this down in my arrangement. I want this to sit very low in here and kind of angle towards my arrangement. Now I'll take my flower, and I want to see a bit of the stem of the flower, so I'm just going to gently poke that in. Got a slight poke in, and maybe angle that around to you so you can see it. And there we have it.